This is Mr. Eugene, and today we're addressing something that's been building for decades but has finally reached critical mass. The moment when men collectively decided that modern relationship expectations are simply too high, too contradictory, and too costly to be worth meeting. We were told to provide, protect, and be stoic. We followed that script faithfully, but the goalposts kept moving, the requirements kept expanding, the contradictions kept multiplying. And somewhere along the way, something broke. Not in men, but in men's willingness to keep playing a game where the rules change constantly and winning is impossible. And before we get into this, let me tell you why this matters personally to me, and why I'm willing to say what mainstream conversation carefully avoids. Because I've lived through this breaking point. I spent 15 years trying to meet expectations that were deliberately designed to be unmeetable. I watched those expectations shift every time I came close to satisfying them. I sacrificed my time, my resources, my peace, my autonomy trying to be what modern women claimed they wanted. And I discovered something that changed everything. They don't actually want what they claim to want. They want contradiction. They want the impossible. They want a man who is somehow both traditional and progressive, both dominant and egalitarian, both provider and partner, both strong and vulnerable, all at the same time with perfect calibration to her fluctuating moods. And I finally reached the point where I said, this is impossible, this is exhausting, this is not worth it. I'm done. And I've watched thousands of men reach that same breaking point. Good men, capable men. Men who could meet traditional expectations easily but can't meet modern contradictory expectations no matter how hard they try. So they stop trying. They opt out. They walk away. And society calls them failures while refusing to examine why capable men are choosing to fail rather than continue playing. That's what we're examining today, the breaking point, what caused it, why it's accelerating, and why there's no going back. Stay with me. Today we're examining the exact breaking point where men decided the cost of entry into modern relationships was too high, and why that decision is irreversible. The traditional contract. Let's start by understanding what men were originally agreeing to. The traditional social contract between men and women was straightforward. Men provide resources, protection, and stability. Women provide domestic labor, sexual fidelity, and support for male ambition. Both sides had clear roles. Both sides provided value. Both sides benefited from the exchange. This wasn't exploitation. It was specialization based on biological realities and practical efficiency. Men were better suited for resource acquisition and protection. Women were better suited for child rearing and domestic management. The arrangement worked for thousands of years because both parties delivered on their obligations and both parties benefited from the other's contribution. Men accepted this contract willingly. We understood the deal: work hard, provide well, protect your family, and in return you get a loyal partner, a managed home, regular intimacy, and respect for your role. The terms were clear, the expectations were knowable, you could succeed by meeting defined standards. But something changed. The contract changed, except only one side got to renegotiate. The expectation expansion. Here's what happened over the past 50 years. Women's expectations of men expanded dramatically, while men's expectations of women were labeled oppressive and eliminated. Women demanded and received equal access to education, careers, and income. Fair enough. But instead of reducing their expectations of male provision, they maintained them. Now men are expected to earn well and support her career, expected to be primary provider and co-parent equally, expected to lead financially and defer to her on family decisions. Women demanded emotional availability. Men were told that stoicism was toxic, that we needed to open up, to be vulnerable, to share feelings. So men tried, and discovered that women lose attraction to vulnerable men. That emotional availability doesn't mean she wants to hear your struggles. It means you're supposed to expertly manage her emotions while suppressing your own. Women demanded men participate equally in domestic labor and child rearing. But equally doesn't mean 50-50ths. It means doing what she wants, how she wants it, when she wants it. Your contribution doesn't count if it's not performed to her standards. You're not co-parenting, you're assisting her parenting. You're not managing the home, you're helping with her home management. Women demanded men respect their careers and ambitions while still being primary providers. So men worked to support household while also supporting her career pursuits that may not generate equivalent income. And when her career demands something, his needs to flex. When his career demands something, he needs to figure out how to accommodate both. Women demanded men be both dominant and egalitarian. Be the leader but also treat her as absolute equal. Make decisions but only decisions she agrees with. Be strong but not controlling. Be assertive but not aggressive. Be confident but not arrogant. Be protective but not possessive. The contradictions are designed to be impossible. Women demanded men respect their independence while still pursuing them romantically. She's a strong, independent woman who doesn't need a man. But you better pursue her, court her, romance her, prove your worth. She doesn't need you, but you better act like you need her. She can handle everything herself, but you better provide anyway. Every single expansion of expectations on men came without corresponding reduction in previous expectations. The new requirements got added on top of the old requirements. The bar didn't move. It multiplied. The contradiction matrix. Let me map out some of the core contradictions modern men are expected to navigate simultaneously. Contradiction 1. Provider and partner be the primary earner who can support household independently, but also treat her as absolute equal partner whose income and career are just as important. Lead financially but defer to her financial opinions. Pay for dates but don't expect traditional gender roles. Contradiction 2. Strong and vulnerable, be emotionally strong enough to handle your own problems and hers. Never complain, never show weakness that burdens her, but also be emotionally vulnerable and open. Share your feelings, let her in, except not in ways that make you seem weak or needy. Strong vulnerability only, vulnerable strength. Figure it out. Contradiction 3. Dominant and egalitarian, be the leader. Make decisions, take charge. Women are attracted to masculine leadership, but also treat her as absolute equal. Every decision is joint. Her opinion matters exactly as much as yours. Lead without leading. Dominate without dominating. Be in charge of nothing while being responsible for everything. Contradiction 4. Pursuing and respecting boundaries, pursue her romantically. Be the aggressor. Make the first move. Plan the dates. Initiate everything, but also respect her boundaries completely. Don't be too forward. Don't be pushy. Don't assume interest. Wait for clear signals. Except the signals are deliberately ambiguous because she's testing whether you're confident enough to pursue despite ambiguity. Pursue but don't pursue. Advance but don't advanced. Contradiction 5. Traditional and progressive. Be traditionally masculine in ways that benefit her. Pay for things, do physical labor, protect her, defer to her emotions, but be progressive in ways that benefit her. Split domestic labor, support her career, accept her past. Don't expect traditional feminine behaviors. Traditional when it serves her. Progressive when it serves her, never consistent. Always contradictory. Contradiction 6. Present and successful, be constantly available for her emotional needs. Present, attentive, engaged in relationship, prioritize her and family above work, but also be wildly successful in career, build wealth, advance professionally, provide well, achieve high status, do all of this with less time because you're being present. Success without sacrifice, presence without opportunity cost. These aren't minor inconsistencies. These are fundamental contradictions where meeting one expectation means failing another, and men are expected to navigate all of them perfectly, with exact calibration to her current mood and needs, which change constantly without notice. The breaking point calculation. So let's examine the calculation men are making at the breaking point, because this isn't emotional, this is rational cost-benefit analysis. Cost side, constant performance pressure to meet contradictory standards, financial obligation to provide while income doesn't go as far, emotional labor of managing her feelings while suppressing yours, domestic labor expectations regardless of income contribution, loss of authority in exchange for expanded responsibility, risk of divorce where you lose assets, income, and children, social pressure to accept terms that disadvantage you, career sacrifice to be present while expected to advance, no guaranteed return on any investment made, standards that shift whenever you meet current, one's benefit side, companionship, available elsewhere with less cost, regular intimacy, not guaranteed, often weaponized, domestic labor, you're expected to do half anyway. Emotional support, you're supposed to manage emotions. Partnership actually means doing what she wants. Family, risk losing in divorce, she'll likely initiate. When men honestly evaluate this calculation, the math doesn't work. The costs are high, expanding, and guaranteed. The benefits are modest, shrinking, and conditional on her continued satisfaction with your performance of impossible standards. This is the breaking point, the moment men realize they're sacrificing everything for conditional access to diminishing returns, and that no amount of sacrifice will ever be enough because the standards are designed to be unmeetable. The 80/20ths problem, here's what's making this breaking point crisis level rather than isolated, the 80/20ths dating market dynamics. Women are pursuing the same 20% of men. Top earners, top looks, top status. These men have options. They don't need to commit. They can get casual relationships easily. So they don't meet any expectations, they just receive female attention anyway due to high sexual market value. The 80% of normal men who would have historically married and provided well, these men are the ones being expected to meet expanded contradictory requirements. The top 20% get female attention without meeting standards. The bottom 80% can't get female attention despite meeting standards. So normal men look at top 20% getting relationships without effort and realize the expectations being placed on them aren't actually what generates female attraction. The requirements are compliance tests, not attraction generators. She's making you jump through hoops to qualify for access she'd give freely to higher status men. This realization is devastating. It means all your effort to meet her standards isn't making her desire you more. It's just proving you're willing to comply to get access you should either have naturally, if she's actually attracted, or shouldn't want, if she's making you earn what she'd give freely elsewhere. The breaking point accelerates when men realize they're being expected to meet standards the men women actually desire don't have to meet. The accountability asymmetry. Another factor driving the breaking point, complete accountability asymmetry. Men are held accountable for everything: your income, your career, your domestic contribution, your emotional availability, your behavior, your past, your present, your future, your decisions, her happiness, her satisfaction. Everything that goes wrong is somehow your fault or your responsibility to fix. Women are held accountable for nothing. Her income is her choice. You can't expect her to provide. Her career is her priority. You must support it. Her domestic contribution is whatever she decides. You can't have standards. Her emotional availability is conditional on how you make her feel. It's not her responsibility. Her behavior is always somehow your fault. You triggered it. Her past is off limits. Don't judge. Her present dissatisfaction is your failure. Fix it. Her future happiness is your job. Deliver it. This asymmetry means men carry 100% of relationship accountability, while women carry 0%. Everything is measured by whether she's happy. Nothing is measured by whether you're satisfied. Your needs are irrelevant. Her needs are paramount. The breaking point happens when men realize they're in a relationship structure where they're 100% responsible for outcomes, but have maybe 20% control over the variables that determine outcomes. You're accountable for her happiness, but she determines whether she's happy. You're responsible for relationship success, but she determines whether it's successful. You can meet every expectation perfectly, and she can still decide it's not enough, and it's your fault. That's not partnership. That's servitude. And men are walking away. The risk-reward imbalance. Let's examine the risk-reward structure honestly, because this is where the breaking point becomes inevitable. For men entering relationships or marriage risks, 70 to 80% divorce initiation rate by women, lose half or more of assets in divorce, lose income to alimony for years or decades, lose access to children, you're still funding, lose years of time and opportunity to bad relationship, reputation damage if she decides to make accusations, career damage if relationship drama affects work, no guarantee any effort produces lasting satisfaction rewards, companionship that could end any time for any reason, intimacy that's conditional on her mood and satisfaction, partnership where you do most work with least authority, family you could lose access to at her discretion, domestic cooperation you're expected to provide. Anyway, the risk-reward structure is catastrophically imbalanced. Men risk everything: assets, income, children, reputation, time. Women risk minimal consequences. She keeps assets, receives support, maintains primary custody, faces no social penalty for initiating divorce. When any investment has catastrophic downside risk, moderate probability of downside, and modest upside potential, rational actors don't invest. The expected value is negative. The risk-adjusted return is terrible. Men are reaching breaking point not because they're against relationships, but because the risk-reward structure makes relationships terrible investments for men and excellent opportunities for women. The deal is so one-sided that declining it is obviously correct. The competence attraction paradox. Here's a factor that drives breaking point specifically for high-value men: the competence attraction paradox. Men are told to develop themselves, be educated, build careers, earn well, be responsible, manage resources wisely, develop skills, be capable and competent adults. Men do this. They work hard, they build careers, they earn good incomes, they manage finances well, they develop capabilities, they become competent, responsible adults. Then they discover that female attraction doesn't respond to competence and responsibility. It responds to unpredictability and challenge. The qualities that make you a good long-term partner destroy short-term attraction. The qualities that generate attraction make you a terrible long-term partner. So you have to choose: be competent and responsible and selected for long-term commitment by women settling for stability after chasing attraction, or be unpredictable and challenging and selected for short-term attraction by women you probably shouldn't commit to. Either way, you lose. If you're competent and responsible, you're the backup plan she settles for after her attraction to irresponsible men fades. If you're unpredictable and challenging, you can't build stable life or family. High-value men reach breaking point when they realize their competence doesn't generate desire. It generates settlement. Women don't desire them. Women accept them as practical choice after desire for other men doesn't yield commitment. Being someone's settlement option after a decade of her pursuing men who excited her but wouldn't commit, that's not a prize. That's an insult. And competent men are refusing to accept it. The goalpost phenomenon. One of the most maddening aspects driving the breaking point is the moving goalpost phenomenon. You meet a standard, the standard changes. You satisfy a requirement, new requirements appear, you think you've arrived at enough, she decides enough is now more. The targets are deliberately mobile, early dating. I just want a guy with a job who treats me well. You provide that. Then it's, I need someone ambitious who's going somewhere. You demonstrate ambition. And it's, I need someone who prioritizes relationship over work. You prioritize relationship. Then it's, I need someone who's more successful. You can't win because winning redefines the requirements. This happens in every domain. Income, she wanted financially stable. You provided stable, now she wants wealthy. You achieve wealthy, now she wants you home more. You adjust, now she wants more lifestyle. The target moves constantly. Emotional availability, she wanted you to open up. You opened up, now she's not attracted to your vulnerability. You adjust, now she wants you to share more. You share more, now you're too needy. The target moves constantly. Domestic labor, she wanted you to help more. You help more, now she wants you to anticipate needs. You anticipate, now you're doing it wrong. Follow her lead, now you're not taking initiative. The target moves constantly. Men reach breaking point when they realize the goalpost will always move because her dissatisfaction is internal, not external. Nothing you do will permanently satisfy her because she's not measuring whether you're good enough. She's measuring whether she still has leverage to extract more. The goalposts move to maintain leverage. The stoicism double bind. Let's examine a specific contradiction that particularly drives high-value men to breaking point, the stoicism double bind. Traditional masculinity required stoicism. Handle your problems. Don't complain. Don't burden others with your struggles. Be the rock others lean on. This was the expectation for generations. Modern masculinity condemns stoicism as toxic. You need to open up, share feelings, be vulnerable, express emotions. Emotional unavailability is harmful. This is the current expectation. So men try to adapt. We attempt vulnerability, we share struggles, we express emotions, we open up about difficulties, and we discover immediate loss of attraction. Women say they want vulnerability, but react with disgust to actual vulnerability. They say they want emotional openness, but lose respect when you're actually open about weakness. The double bind, be stoic and you're emotionally unavailable and toxic. Be vulnerable and you're weak and unattractive. Be both selectively based on her current need, which she won't articulate, and you might avoid punishment. But you'll never get reward because the bind ensures you're always wrong. High-value men reach breaking point here because this double bind is deliberately unsolvable. You can't win, you can only choose which way to lose. And increasingly, men are choosing to lose by walking away entirely rather than playing a game rigged against them. The effort appreciation gap, another breaking point factor, massive gap between male effort and female appreciation. Men work extraordinary hours to provide income, often dangerous, difficult, stressful work that sacrifices health, time, relationships, hobbies, work that exists purely to generate resources for family. How much appreciation? Minimal to none. She appreciates what you provide until she adapts to it, then it's baseline expectation. Your income becomes what you're supposed to provide, not something you're appreciated for providing. The sacrifice that generates it becomes invisible. Men handle household maintenance, repairs, lawn care, heavy lifting, technical problems, often physically demanding work, often requiring skills developed over years, often saving thousands in professional services. How much appreciation? Minimal to none. She mentions what didn't get done, not what did. Your capabilities become expected baseline, not appreciated contribution. Men manage their own emotions to avoid burdening her, suppress stress, anxiety, frustration, anger, process problems internally, maintain stability regardless of internal state, provide emotional rock while drowning privately. How much appreciation? None. Your emotional management is invisible until you fail at it, then you're punished. Your success is expected. Your failure is condemned. There's no appreciation for effort she doesn't see. The effort appreciation gap drives breaking point because effort without appreciation is exhausting. You can sustain sacrifice when it's valued. You can't sustain sacrifice that's treated as baseline expectation rather than extraordinary contribution. Eventually, you stop sacrificing. You stop providing beyond minimum. You walk away. The alternative calculation. Here's what's making the breaking point irreversible. Men are calculating alternatives. Traditional relationship, work 50 to 60 hours weekly to provide well, navigate contradictory expectations constantly, manage her emotions while suppressing yours, sacrifice autonomy for household decisions, risk everything in divorce she'll likely initiate, maybe get companionship and intimacy if she's satisfied, never feel like you're enough, no matter what you provide. Alternative, staying single, work enough to support yourself comfortably. No contradictory expectations to navigate, no one's emotions to manage except yours, complete autonomy over decisions, no divorce risk or asset loss, companionship from friends, family, hobbies, intimacy if you want it without relationship obligations. Peace is baseline instead of exception. When men honestly compare these options, staying single wins on almost every metric except societal approval and possibility of family. And increasingly, Men value peace over approval and question whether family justifies the risk given custody realities. The alternative calculation makes the breaking point permanent. Once men realize single life is superior to relationship life under modern terms, going back to relationships requires terms to change dramatically. And terms aren't changing, they're getting worse. Why there's no going back, let me explain why this breaking point is irreversible without fundamental change. First, men who've reached breaking point have tried meeting expectations and failed despite maximum effort. They're not walking away without attempting compliance. They're walking away after compliance proved impossible or unsustainable. They know from experience that trying harder doesn't work. Second, men who've embraced single life have discovered it's better than they expected. The peace, autonomy, and freedom aren't consolation prizes. They're superior to what relationship offered. There's no incentive to return. Third, men talk to each other. The breaking point is spreading through networks. Younger men watch older men's divorces. Single men compare notes on modern dating. The collective knowledge about how bad the deal is for men is reaching critical mass. Fourth, women aren't moderating expectations. If anything, expectations are expanding further. More income, more emotional labor, more domestic contribution, more flexibility, more sacrifice. The deal isn't improving, it's deteriorating. Fifth, the systems that could provide accountability aren't functioning. Courts favor women. Culture supports women. Media platforms women. There's no correction mechanism that would force female expectations to become reasonable. The breaking point becomes permanent because neither incentives nor consequences exist to reverse it. Men have no incentive to return. Women have no consequences for unreasonable expectations. The trajectory continues until system-level crisis. What happens next? So what happens when millions of high-value men reach breaking point and opt out? Women's outcomes deteriorate. The men who would have been good husbands and fathers aren't participating. The men who remain in dating market are either top 20% who won't commit or bottom 20% who can't provide. The middle 60%, the men who would have formed stable marriages, they're gone. Fertility drops further. Men opting out means fewer relationships, means fewer children. This accelerates demographic crisis in developed nations. Population aging accelerates. Economic growth slows. Social stability declines. Marriage and family formation were stabilizing forces. Men with wives and children invest in communities and future. Men without either become less invested in maintaining systems that don't serve them. Social fabric weakens. Women blame men. Predictably, the response isn't examining why expectations drove men away. It's condemning men for walking away. Men are failing. Men are refusing to grow up. Men are intimidated by strong women. Never our expectations became unreasonable and drove away quality men. Society will attempt forced compliance. Tax penalties for single men, social pressure, shame campaigns, anything to force men back into relationships. All of it will fail because you can't force men into relationship structures where they're guaranteed to lose. Eventually, reality forces correction. But not until outcomes become catastrophic enough that women moderate expectations voluntarily or system collapses and reforms with different terms. We're not there yet. We're in the phase where men walk away and society pretends it's not happening. There's only one path forward that prevents complete breakdown, fundamental renegotiation of relationship expectations to become reasonable, consistent, and mutually beneficial. This would require women accepting that expanded income career opportunities mean men aren't sole providers anymore. Either traditional arrangement where he provides and she manages home, or modern arrangement where both provide and both manage home equally, not hybrid where he provides like traditional while both manage home equally like modern. Women accepting that emotional availability is reciprocal. If men must be vulnerable, women must respond with support instead of disgust. If women need emotional support, men get emotional support too. Not one-way emotional labor. Women accepting accountability for relationship outcomes. Not everything is his fault. She contributes to problems too. She has responsibilities too. Partnership means mutual accountability, not male-only accountability. Women accepting that men have needs that matter. Regular intimacy isn't optional in healthy relationship. Respect isn't optional. Peace isn't optional. His needs matter exactly as much as hers. Women accepting that expectations must be consistent and achievable, not contradictory, not constantly shifting, not designed to extract maximum compliance. Clear, knowable, meetable standards that, if satisfied, yield genuine satisfaction. Women accepting that relationship market dynamics have changed. Average women don't get top 20% men for commitment. Average women get average men if they're reasonable. Unreasonable expectations yield nothing. But this recalibration requires women admitting current expectations are unreasonable, admitting they've expanded requirements beyond sustainability, admitting modern relationship terms disadvantage men catastrophically, admitting they're contributing to relationship crisis. Most women won't do this. So the breaking point continues. More men walk away. The crisis deepens. Eventually, reality forces correction through catastrophe rather than reason. Final thoughts. Let me tell you why I made this video, why I'm willing to map out the breaking point so explicitly. Because I reached it myself. And I've watched thousands of good men reach it, men who tried everything, who worked hard, who sacrificed endlessly, who attempted to meet every expectation, and who finally realized that meeting expectations doesn't lead to satisfaction. It leads to expanded expectations, that the game is rigged, that the only winning move is not to play. And I'm tired of these men being called failures. They're not failing. They're refusing to continue playing an unwinnable game. They're making rational calculations about cost-benefit and risk-reward and concluding correctly that modern relationships are terrible deals for men. The breaking point isn't men's failure. It's the inevitable result of imposing impossible, contradictory, expanding expectations on men while removing consequences for women when relationships fail. Basic incentive structures predict this outcome. Men respond to incentives like everyone else. Make the deal bad enough, men walk away. This channel exists because I got tired of watching men sacrifice themselves trying to meet standards designed to be unmeetable. I got tired of quality men being told they're the problem when the structure is the problem. I got tired of the breaking point being blamed on male inadequacy instead of impossible expectations. So if this resonated, if you've reached breaking point or you're approaching it, understand you're not broken. The system is broken. You're not failing. You're refusing to continue playing a rigged game. You're not inadequate. The expectations are impossible. Drop a comment about your breaking point. When did you realize the expectations were impossible? What calculation made you walk away? Share so other men understand they're not alone. Subscribe for more truth about relationship dynamics that society refuses to examine honestly, because this channel will never blame men for walking away from bad deals. We'll never tell you to try harder to meet impossible standards. We'll never frame your refusal to be exploited as failure. The breaking point is real. The breaking point is rational. The breaking point is spreading. And until expectations become reasonable, the breaking point continues. The only question is whether you've reached yours yet and what you'll do when you do. Choose wisely.